Sean is actually someone I've done a lot of work with over the years. He's been a great person for advice. He has trained just about everything, it feels like. And Sean, you can wrong, but I went and got training on how to train dogs from him. And he did everything from high level sports and protection dogs to service dogs. Some of my puppies and have gone with Sean to be trained as service dogs. And so you kind of really been around the block, haven't you, Sean?
Yeah, I have. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, including one of your puppies that was bought by one of the wealthiest people in the world. And they flew down in, I think, a 737 private jet to meet the puppy and to meet you and I. And that was a wild experience. But
I
yeah,
know
it's been fun.
it was like super intimidating. Like
It was.
when I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, we can maybe meet you at the airport," and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna fly into the Provo airport, which is a smaller airport." I'm like, "Okay, what time is your flight?" And they're like, "Oh, when we get there." And like, what is going on? So yeah,
Yeah, that was wild. And then when I finished training, I flew the dog up to their place in Seattle, and that was a wild experience.
yeah, yeah. Who did they live next to?
Jeff Bezos and was their next door neighbor, and what's his name? The other Microsoft was their other neighbor. Um, anyway, whatever the other billionaire. So Jeff Bezos had just gotten divorced at the time, so his wife, ex-wife, now had that house, and they had been divorced. But it was wild.
Super crazy, super crazy.
Yeah.
So I know we're here to talk about firm, fair, and consistent, and how that looks like in daily puppy handling. So maybe tell us a little bit about what that does look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think was it Lindsay, the one who just Lizzie?
Lizzie?
She, yeah, she. I noticed when she mentioned, having the little puppies and how they tend to be yappy and they tend to, have these problems. And I 100% see that in training. In fact, if I see a dog come in and it's in a purse and it has a ribbon in its hair, I know for fact before we get done, and probably multiple times, that dog is going to try and bite me. And the reason is it has gotten away with so much stuff that it just feels like there are no restrictions. There are no boundaries. It's allowed to do whatever it wants to do. Even with my own kids. So my kids grew up, I've been training since 2008. My kids who were all of their lives, basically, they were involved in dog training. They all helped train. We'd have dogs in the house, and they would let this cute little dog come and jump all over them, and they reach down and start petting the dog and telling it how cute it is. And I'm like, whoa, hey, stop it. You guys know the rule. You don't pet a dog when it's jumping up on you. And they're like, oh, but it's so cute. And that's what we all do. When you have a small dog, it gets away with everything. So I told my kids, if that was a German Shepherd, would you let it do that? They're like, well, no, of course not. But this is just such a cute puppy. And so from the time we get them as puppies, we let them get away with everything. And that's when they become these entitled monsters. Because if you set the ground rules from the beginning, and this is my number one rule for dog training, what you expect is what you're going to get. Because you can go into a house and they have two big dogs and one little dog. The little dog is a terror. It's chasing people, biting, barking, doing all this stuff. And the big dogs are well behaved. And there might be some genetics involved there, but the majority of it from what I have seen is that they just don't let the big dogs do those things. And it's okay for the little dog. So that's what I mean by being firm, fair, and consistent, setting these rules from the time, like for you that are trainers, letting your people know that from day one, when they get the puppy, start setting those rules. Because you have a honeymoon stage with puppies where they want to be with you. They love you. They all of it. And basically the only challenge you're having is sometimes there's some barking and some having accidents. Those are the two major issues you're having with puppies. But all of these other things don't start to show up until later in the dog's life. Usually 4 to 6 months, the puppy starts going through this, their kind of teenage years, as I like to call them, and they start having these attitudes, and all of a sudden the dog's running off and it doesn't want to just stay with you, and it's, barking and maybe nipping at people and having all of these behaviors that if we had started right away, it would have been much easier to nip it in the bud. If you're familiar with elephants, how they train them, it is super fascinating. They take an iron post that's stuck into concrete and they tie a chain or really strong rope to a baby elephant. And so every time that they tie it to that chain, it is not physically strong enough to move it. So then when it's an adult, they can put a little stick in the ground, just stick it there, don't even have to pound it or anything, tie the rope to it, and the elephant will not move because it thinks it cannot move. And so, for instance, with a puppy, if you always have the puppy in an enclosed area, like I'm talking like a fenced yard, whatever, you're using food to get it to come see you. And then if you ever take it somewhere else, you put it like a 20-foot leash on it, a light leash, let it drag it around so that the puppy, one of the most important things that a puppy can learn is that it doesn't even have the option to run away from you. It's impossible. It's physically impossible for them to run away from it. If you start teaching that as a puppy, that it cannot run away from you, and two, every time it comes to you, it's going to be rewarded. There's going to be food. There's going to be treats, praise, and affection. By the time that puppy hits 6 months, the chances are, and especially if you can continue that to 12 months, it's never going to run away from you. It's not going to think it can, and it's not going to want to. So starting to set those boundaries immediately makes a huge difference in the mindset of the puppy, because obviously a dog is faster than we are. And even if you're playing games and it's running away, it doesn't realize that, oh, I can run away at any time. And that goes, another rule I have is that you never chase a dog, ever. They always chase you, especially when they're puppies. And I tell this to families with kids, never chase the dog, because it's fun for them to be chased, but it's also fun to chase. And so if instead of running after them, you run away. And so then the puppy's always chasing after you, makes it much easier to call them to you. So that was kind of a long answer, but that's kind of what I mean by these being firm, fair, and consistent, and just what you expect is what you're going to get.
I love that. I love that. And I know you are a breeder yourself, or have been in the past.
Yes. Yep.
You raised Belgian Malinois, which have got to be one of the hardest dogs.
Oh, they're crazy.
Yeah. As well as I know you did Pomskis for a while.
Yep.
How can breeders balance early socialization without overwhelming the puppy?
That's a great question. And it all comes down to desensitization and positive association. So this is the same process that I go through. If I get a dog I got a dog right now that's very reactive. It's not aggressive. It's never bit anyone, but it's extremely reactive. And so what I'm doing is desensitization. So I'm starting at a distance to what it is afraid of. So, and it's most aggression and reactivity is fear-based. It's rarely out of confidence. It's usually fear-based. And so we're starting at a distance. We're using food. The dog's getting treats, and we gradually get closer to that thing. And so that's going to create a positive association. At the same time, it's desensitizing them. So for instance, a dog that is reactive towards people and dogs, there's two reasons that it is that way. One, it is afraid, and it feels like I need to attack them before they have the chance to attack me. So it's dragging you to go attack those people or dogs. The other situation is that the dog loves people and dogs so much that it wants to drag you to go play with them. Neither of them are great situations. So even if a dog is sweet and friendly and excited, there needs to be some desensitization so that it's just not losing its mind. Like I've had dogs that were so friendly that it took a lot of training to get them to chill out. I was I was just working with a dog I was training in public access. We were in a grocery store and it was laying down and it was shaking. And someone asked, like, is this dog scared? And I was like, oh, no, no. This dog is so excited to see you that it's shaking because it wants to get up and go play with you. Like, it is not scared at all. And so it's the same thing. It doesn't matter whether it's scared or whether it's just so excited that it loses its mind. They need some desensitization. We had a dog that one of the Malinois, we would take the dogs to the lake about once or twice a week. And this dog would go crazy, lose its mind. It would start shaking as soon as we pulled up to the lake. And we could not control this dog at the lake. Away from the lake, it was an extremely obedient dog. So what we started doing is every time we went to the lake, this dog got put in a downstay and it was not allowed to move. It watched all the other dogs swim. And so this is some desensitization. And then as the dog, and this was over probably a month's time, as the dog started to relax because it realized, oh, I'm not going to get to swim every time. And so it started to become desensitized to the lake. We started creating the positive association. And when he wasn't shaking, we started giving him treats and giving him praise and affection. And then we started letting that dog play at the end. So all of the dogs played. When they were all done, this dog would go play for a few minutes. And we did that for a couple more weeks until finally he was able to join the rest of them. And because the criteria for that for me is if they're playing, doing something like that, and I call them to me, they immediately come, no hesitation. They're good to continue what they're doing. If they, like for instance, two dogs playing with each other, it can become too exciting and too arousing so that you're no longer fun. They don't want to listen to you. And so they need to be removed from that situation. And so finally this dog started behaving at the lake through the desensitization and the positive association. And he was able, and the positive association is rewarding the good behaviors in that situation. We were able to do that. And so you can do the same thing for puppies. So what we do, and like for the Malinois, they're competition protection dogs. So these are dogs that will get trained and sold up to, we've sold them as high as $100,000. And so there's a lot at stake with these puppies. So we, as we're feeding them, we're making noises, we're banging on things. We have obstacle courses that the puppies would climb through because we want to desensitize them to all kinds of sights, sounds, colors, textures, people. Like dogs are very, what's the word where they're very racist and they're very judgmental. They're very all of these things. They associate, like for instance, if you a lot of dogs are afraid of like men with hats, and that's a real common thing that dogs are afraid of. And people always tell me, oh, they must have got abused by a man with a hat. Well, maybe, or it could have been that puppy was in the house and a construction worker, because they were doing some construction in the home, walked up, turned the corner, and this huge giant man with a hat on was towering over the puppy and almost stepped on it. So now that superstition, that's what I was thinking of. So now that dog is afraid of men with hats. They're afraid of uniforms. They're afraid of like all of these things that they're not used to. And when I say they're racist, I mean, if you have a dog that grew up in a predominantly black community, a white person comes, it's going to bark at that white person and vice versa, because it's not that they're racist, but anything that's different, they are going to be concerned with. So if you can expose them in a positive way, and you want to start small, make it really easy, quiet noises, and then gradually increase the intensity of the noises, that like we get to where we're shaking things and we're dragging them over the puppies while they're eating, and because we want them to become so desensitized that they just don't care. If you have, and as the puppy is growing, if you show them 1,000 different pictures of sights, sounds, colors, textures, people, dogs, things, places, you can't expose them to everything. But if they've seen 1,000 different pictures, the 1,001st picture tends not to be a big deal. They're like, oh, they're more curious. Oh, what is that? So for instance, when I train a puppy, I have a program where we start with the puppy at 8 weeks, with 4 months, and then 6 months. And at 4 months, what I like to see, because I do my part, what I do at work on a lot of confidence building, socialization, beginning obedience, and then I help the owners to know how to continue that. And at 4 months, what I want to see is a puppy that is very disobedient in a way that it's like pulling to go check things out. I want it to walk into the office and it's dragging the owner to go check out the fake tree in the corner and to go say hi to these people. I want it to have the sense of adventure and confidence and go explore the world. And if you can help, and there's going to be some genetics involved, but a big part of it is what you do with the puppy and what the owners do. And if they can help to support and create that, just that sense of adventure and confidence and curiosity in the world, it makes it so much easier to train the dog, especially if it's going into something like if it's going to be a service dog or it's going to be a working dog or what, even just a family pet that they want to take to a lot of places. And so that's how you can begin to help your puppies to become desensitized and have positive associations to different things.
Yeah, so much great advice there. And when you say, helping to desensitize them, what does that look like on kind of a practical daily, weekly, monthly scale for a breeder, just to kind of break it down for people a little bit?
Yeah, so if you can have different sounds, like sounds are the big thing because dogs hear 4 times as well as we do. In fact, I tell people, like I hear people like, oh, my dog's staring at the wall, there must be a ghost. And I'm like, no, he's probably listening to the neighbor's conversation that we can't hear. And, because they hear so well. And so like being startled by sounds is a big thing. One of my personal puppies, it grew up, like I brought the puppy home and we were remodeling the house. So its crate was next to nail guns, saws, all kinds of things. And that's the way it grew up. And because of that, it was so confident that I took my sons out shooting one time. And I'm here looking at my son, helping him know how to shoot. He's looking through the scope, and all of a sudden, he can't see anything. And we look down, and he had just shot. And that dog is smelling the end of the rifle because it's curious about the sound, because it's not scared of it at all. We would do fireworks, and this dog would, as the fireworks would go up, he would try to go out into the fireworks to pick them up as they're going. So we had to literally hold him back and let him know that that is not okay. You're going to catch on fire. But he was so desensitized and had such a positive association because he took his meals and everything was happening while this construction was going on. And so part of it definitely was genetics, because he was a very confident dog anyway. But that extra exposure to those things in a positive way was made him so that he did not fear any loud noises. And so for your puppies, it's great. Like you can even do, I've done things where I have a battle, a movie that has battles with pretty loud speakers, playing it for the puppies. And there's probably something to be made about having sounds that are going to be more soothing to the puppy. And I don't know about all of that. I just knew that I wanted these puppies to be okay with gunshots, because when we do personal protection, they need to be comfortable with gunfire. And so just gradually exposing those puppies to the different rattles and shakers and the textures and all things those are important too. But sound has been, in my experience, the big thing. Like if you ever see a dog just like totally jump, it's typically not because they stepped on something that's different. And that can happen a little bit, but it's typically a sound. And so just exposing them gradually to those sounds in a positive way.
Yeah, I love that. And I know personally, when I am socializing, there are so many sounds now on YouTube. Like there's hours of crying babies, there's
Yep.
hours of cars, there's hours of like construction noise. You can find all these noises and you don't even have to leave the house anymore. It's so convenient.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what do you think are some of the most common mistakes breeders make that create long-term issues? Obviously not socializing properly, but what else? What else are you seeing?
The number one thing, and I'm sure that all the breeders here would never do this, but when they send the puppy home at 6 weeks, Like I can take a dog and start training it, and I can almost tell. And I'll ask the owner, "Hey, what age were you when you got this puppy?" And oh, we got it at 6 weeks, because those 6 weeks is when, typically the mother's getting weaned off of the puppies and they are interacting together, and that's a really important part of their socialization, is learning to, they get a little bit too aggressive and their puppy like nips at them, say, "Hey, knock it off," and they learn to behave appropriately with each other during that 6 weeks, or that, excuse me, that at 6 weeks, during that 2 weeks before they go home. It makes a huge difference in the behavior and the mindset of the puppy as it grows older. And I've even heard of situations where a mother only had one puppy, and so they found another litter of puppies and put it in with them so that it could get that experience. And for me personally, I have taken a puppy earlier than 8 weeks myself, because I know how to do the socialization, and I had dogs at the time that I could socialize them with. I have one of my daughters has a Boston Terrier, amazing dog. She's been in all kinds of movies and rock videos and commercials. Just an amazing dog, and she is the best at correcting puppies. And so I could put that puppy in with her, and she will teach that puppy to behave appropriately. But for 99.9% of cases, let those puppies stay together until 8 weeks, and it's going to make a huge difference.
I love that advice. And I think
What
most people know
Go
that.
ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I just give one more tip too? That's
Yeah.
another big one. The next biggest thing besides that is the potty situation. So what a puppy needs to learn is that they don't go potty in their own space. And so as a breeder, creating that, like I've seen breeders that keep all the puppies on a concrete pad and they just go out and they spray the thing off every day. So the dogs don't learn that there's an area that they go potty and an area that they're not. Some of the setups I like. So what we would do is we had a whelping pen inside. So we have a facility, a barn that Heather's obviously been there. We would set the whelping pen in a room where the mom could go outside to go potty. And inside the building, it's air conditioned, heated, climate controlled. And so then the puppy's staying there. Obviously, she takes care of the mess, and we're changing out their blankets and all this stuff. But once the puppies are weaned from their mother, we would set up a crate, a very large crate, so that they could come inside into the crate, and then they would go outside. And we had wood chips out there. It was covered, and they could go play out there, do whatever they want to do, take care of their business, and then they would come inside to lay down or to sleep or whatever. So they learned that was their clean area, that they don't go potty there. And if they do ever have an accident, you just clean it up really quickly. Generally, they figure it out very quick. And then once they've got that figured out, we expand that space. So then they have a little run on the inside where it's climate controlled, and they have water and food and everything. And then they go potty outside. So that one thing can save your clients such a headache, because one of the biggest challenges is if a dog if they didn't do that and they just lived in their own feces and urine, that's probably the single most difficult thing to change. And the way that I deal with that, if I get a dog that way, I actually set up a crate in their run. So they have an indoor run where there's 5 feet by 5 feet on the inside, 5 feet by 10 feet on the outside with wood chips. The puppy can come in, and then I set up a crate for it with a little bed in there and a little cushion. And so then they lay down on the bed, and they may not make it outside the first couple of times, but generally when I clean it up and that area is clean, they start to figure out, because it's so easy to just go outside and go potty. And typically they can smell, even though we clean it up, they can still smell the urine and the poop from other dogs that have been there. And so that helps to get the idea that, oh, this is where I go potty. And pretty soon they're not going potty in their crate. And that's the first step in me being able to potty train them, because I have to get them to understand you do not go potty in your bed or in your crate. And then once they understand that, then we basically start over as if they were an 8-week-old puppy and start the crate training over again and take them out every couple hours and gradually increase it until they're not going potty in the crate. And then a dog never gets access or freedom that they have not deserved. If your dog has accidents, if they chew on things, if they run away, then they don't, it's not that they don't deserve it. They just haven't learned to be able to have that much freedom yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we often blame the dog, but it's really human error, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
an old joke, in the old days, they said, if your dog goes potty on the floor, rub its nose in it and roll up a newspaper and, go hit the dog on the nose with a newspaper. Well, now, if your dog has an accident, roll up the newspaper and hit yourself because you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And with little dogs, if this process has not been gone through, and this is where I will say that little dogs can be more challenging, specifically even starting young, because they tend not to. And this also goes back to the some of that exposure needs to be to the cold, to the heat, to the grass, because a lot of these smaller dogs, probably because they were just never exposed to those things, typically don't like to. So they'll go outside, they won't go potty. But the owners think they did. Then they come inside. I had one client that when they got a hold of me, they thought the dog was potty trained, and they lived in like this $1.5 million home, and the puppy or the dog was an adult now, had been going downstairs to an empty guest room and pooping and peeing underneath the bed. They had no idea because they didn't use. So they went down there one time and were moving. They couldn't figure out the smell in the room because it got that bad, and they lifted it up and they had to replace the carpet. Like, it was completely ruined. They had no idea. They thought the dog was going potty outside.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. And I know you do business coaching, and we've only got
I
about
do.
less, but tell us a little bit about how people can get a hold of you, what you're doing with your business coaching and all that.
Yep. Absolutely. So I actually have an offer for the group. I have an online program. I'd love to give it to you for free. If you just go to my Instagram page, it is dog_training_institute. And go follow the page, send me a message that you met me here, and I'll give you access to my online dog training program for free. And then you can become an affiliate. And if any of your clients that you sell the online dog training program to, or that buy it through you, we'll pay you half of what we get. So we'll pay you 50% of the online dog training program. And then also, I do business consulting as well. So if you're interested in that, just send me a message, and I'd love to talk to you about that as well. And Heather, you're amazing. Thank you so much for allowing me to come. And I love Heather. She's amazing. She does a great job, and she's just one of those people that she's a gatherer. She just brings in the best people to work with. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And yeah, I do love to gather people. It's true. So thanks for letting me gather you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.